The nurse lost her job on her last shift. Then 2 helicopters landed, yelling, "We need you now." Her job was not easy. Hospital corridors were long, patients were often in pain, and doctors relied on her judgment more than most people realized. But Maya never complained. She had a calm way of moving through the chaos, checking monitors, giving medications, and comforting worried families. Her coworkers often said that Maya seemed to have a natural gift for calming the busiest of wards, and she took pride in that. This particular hospital had always been busy, but recently things had changed. Budgets were getting tighter, and there were fewer staff members to care for the growing number of patients. Maya had noticed the change, but she never let it affect her work. She stayed late when needed, helped new nurses learn procedures, and even volunteered on holidays when shifts were short. Yet, over the past few months, the new administration had begun introducing stricter rules. They focused more on numbers, paperwork, and efficiency than on patient care. Maya found it hard to understand some of the new policies, but she followed them carefully, always trying to do her best for the patients. The day started like any other. Maya arrived early, the hospital still quiet with only the soft hum of the fluorescent lights and the distant beeping of machines. She checked her schedule, knowing it was her last shift on paper. She had received a message from Human Resources the day before, but it was brief and cold. They said her position was being terminated immediately, effective after her shift. No explanation, no conversation, just a note stating that her employment was ending. Maya had been shocked. She thought she had done everything right. She had never received a complaint from a patient, had been praised by doctors for her quick thinking, and had always put her heart into her work. But somehow, that was no longer enough. Walking through the hospital that morning, Maya felt a heavy weight on her chest. Every room she passed reminded her of her time there. The children in the pediatric ward who had once clutched her hands during scary procedures. The elderly man in room 302 who always smiled when she entered. The young mother who had cried tears of relief after a complicated delivery. All of these faces flashed in her mind, and it made leaving feel even harder. She stopped at the nurse's station, briefly glancing at the whiteboard filled with notes and patient charts. The scribbles looked ordinary to anyone else, but to Maya, they were a map of lives she had touched. Her coworkers noticed her quiet demeanor. Some of them tried to offer comforting words, but even they seemed unsure of what to say. "I can't believe they're letting you go," said Jenna, a younger nurse who had always looked up to Maya. "You're the best nurse here." Maya smiled faintly, appreciating the gesture but feeling hollow inside. She wanted to reply with something hopeful, something that could make herself believe that losing this job didn't mean losing her purpose, but the words stuck in her throat. The morning passed slowly. Maya moved from room to room, performing her duties with the same precision and care she always had. She checked vitals, administered medications, and offered a calm presence to patients who were frightened or in pain. Each interaction felt bittersweet. She was still helping people, but she knew that this would be the last time she would walk these halls as a member of the hospital staff. She tried to focus on the work, but her mind kept wandering to questions she couldn't answer. Why had this happened? Was there something she had done wrong? She had no complaints on record, and yet here she was, packing up her things and saying silent goodbyes. During lunch, she sat quietly in the break room, looking out the window at the parking lot. The sunlight fell softly across the empty spaces, and for a moment, she allowed herself to imagine what her life would be like after this. Maybe she would find another job, or maybe she would take some time off to think. But every plan she made felt fragile, like it could shatter at any moment. She missed the feeling of belonging, of being part of a team that worked together to make a difference. That sense of purpose was slipping through her fingers, and it hurt more than she expected. The afternoon brought a flurry of activity. A patient in the emergency wing needed immediate attention, and Maya responded without hesitation. Her hands moved with practiced skill, her mind thinking several steps ahead as she directed others and checked vital signs. In those moments, the stress and sadness faded slightly, replaced by the focus that came naturally when lives were at stake. She realized that even though her job was ending, her ability to care, to act, and to help was not tied to a piece of paper or a title. Her skills, her experience, and her heart were still hers, and they were still valuable. As her shift drew to a close, Maya began packing her personal belongings into a small bag. She tucked away her stethoscope, a few pens, a notebook, and a photo of her with the hospital team from a long-ago celebration. Each item felt like a small piece of her history, a reminder of years spent caring for others. She walked slowly through the corridors, stopping briefly in each area to say goodbye silently to the spaces she had spent so much time in. The pediatric wing, the ICU, the maternity ward, all of them held memories, small and large, that made her heart ache. Finally, it was time to leave. Maya stepped out into the hospital parking lot, the cool air brushing against her face. She carried her bag, but it felt heavier than it should have. She walked past rows of cars, the sound of distant traffic filling the space where the hospital's bustle had once been. For a moment, she simply stood there, looking at the building she had devoted so much of her life to. It was strange to think that she would no longer have a key to these doors, that she would no longer hear the familiar sounds of machines, footsteps, and soft voices calling out for help. As she approached her own car, she noticed a few coworkers lingering near the entrance, quietly watching her leave. Some waved, others simply nodded. Maya waved back, feeling a mix of gratitude and sadness. She got into her car and started the engine, the hum of the motor filling the silence. She drove slowly through the city streets, trying to process what had just happened. Questions swirled in her mind, but answers were elusive. How could a place that had relied on her so much suddenly decide she was no longer needed? Was her career over, or was this just a painful detour? Maya finally pulled over to a quiet spot by the river, the water reflecting the fading light of the afternoon sun. She sat in her car, letting herself breathe, letting the emotions settle for a moment. It was strange, sitting alone and feeling so exposed, yet also strangely peaceful. She realized that she had spent so long caring for others that she had rarely allowed herself this kind of reflection. And now, though her job was gone, she had time. Time to think, time to breathe, and time to decide what came next. Despite the sadness, a small spark of determination remained. Maya had faced difficult situations before, emergencies, tragedies, and moments when everything seemed impossible. She had always found a way through, guided by her skills and her heart. Losing her job was painful, but it did not define her. She was still a nurse, still capable, and still willing to help. The world may have turned a corner she didn't expect, but that didn't mean she had no purpose. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Maya took a deep breath and started the car again. She drove without a particular destination, letting the city streets carry her thoughts. Somewhere out there, someone might need her help. Somewhere, a life could depend on her skill, her calmness, and her courage. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew one thing for certain: she was not finished. Her story was far from over, and she would find a way to keep making a difference, even if it meant starting from scratch. That night, as she finally returned home, Maya sat quietly in her living room. She made herself a cup of tea and looked out the window at the city lights twinkling in the distance. The feelings of loss were still there, but so was a sense of quiet hope. Something told her that this ending was not permanent, that her skills, dedication, and heart would be needed in ways she couldn't yet imagine. And for the first time since she had received the news, Maya allowed herself a small smile. She would face the next chapter as she had faced every challenge in her career, with care, courage, and determination. The morning after losing her job, Maya woke up feeling heavy. Her body ached from tension, and her mind replayed every moment from her last shift. She had gone to bed late, thinking about the patients she would no longer see, the colleagues she might never work with again, and the empty feeling that had settled deep inside her. Even though she tried to convince herself that it was just one hospital, that there were other places where her skills would be appreciated, a sense of helplessness lingered. She had never imagined being told, so suddenly, that she was no longer needed in a place she had devoted so many years of her life. Maya moved through her morning routine almost automatically. She made herself a cup of coffee, sipped it slowly, and stared out the window at the quiet street below. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a soft golden glow across the neighborhood. She noticed children walking to school and neighbors tending their gardens, each absorbed in their own small routines. It was strange how life continued as if nothing had happened, while for her, the world had shifted overnight. Her phone, resting on the counter, began to vibrate. She reached for it reluctantly, expecting another routine notification or perhaps a message from a friend checking in. The caller ID showed an unfamiliar number. She hesitated, unsure whether to answer. Something in her gut told her to pick it up, a small flicker of curiosity mixed with caution. "Hello," Maya said, her voice quiet but steady. "Is this Maya Patel?" a calm but urgent voice asked. "We need your help immediately." Maya blinked, startled. "Excuse me?" she asked. "There's a medical emergency," the voice continued. "We were told you are the only nurse who can handle this situation. 2 helicopters are on the way, and we need you to meet them at the landing zone." Maya's heart skipped a beat. 2 helicopters on their way. She thought she had misheard. I'm sorry," she said. I'm not currently employed. I don't know if I can." The voice interrupted gently but firmly. "We are aware of your situation. Your employment status does not matter. Your experience and your skills are needed. Please, we cannot wait. Lives are at risk." Maya felt a mix of confusion and fear. She had spent her entire career helping people, but this was different. She was not at her hospital. She was not in a controlled environment. Yet there was urgency in the caller's voice, a kind of certainty that made it hard to ignore. She could hear the faint hum of helicopters in the background, though she wasn't sure if it was real or her imagination. Her mind raced. Could she do this? Was she ready to step into such a situation, especially after everything that had happened the day before? After a moment of hesitation, Maya made a decision. She had always been someone who acted when people needed her. She could not ignore this call. She took a deep breath and said, "Okay, tell me where to go." The caller gave her precise instructions. She was to meet the helicopters at a small landing zone just outside the city, near an abandoned airfield. They would wait for her there, along with a team of paramedics and doctors who had been briefed on the emergency. Maya quickly gathered her things, grabbing a small bag with essentials, a notebook, and her stethoscope. She dressed in practical clothing, not her hospital uniform, but something comfortable for travel. As she drove toward the landing zone, the world around her seemed both ordinary and surreal. Cars passed by, morning commuters on their way to work, and yet she felt like she was moving toward something extraordinary, something that could change the course of her day, and perhaps her life. Her mind wandered to the patients she had cared for over the years, the difficult cases she had faced, and the moments when she had saved lives. All of that experience, all of that knowledge, was about to be put to the test once more. When she arrived at the landing zone, 2 helicopters were already hovering nearby, their rotors slicing through the morning air. Paramedics waved at her from the ground, their expressions serious but welcoming. Maya felt a sudden surge of adrenaline. This was real. People's lives were at stake, and they needed her. She approached the team, introducing herself quickly and listening to a briefing on the situation. The first helicopter was headed to a remote mountain area where a landslide had trapped several hikers. The second was en route to a flood zone where families were stranded on rooftops, waiting for immediate rescue. Both situations were critical. Maya could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on her, but she also felt alive in a way she hadn't since the night before. This was exactly what she had trained for, what she had dedicated her life to. She boarded the first helicopter, the sound of the rotors deafening as it lifted off the ground. Inside, the paramedics handed her equipment and gave a quick rundown of the patients they expected to find. Maya listened intently, asking questions and mentally preparing herself for the challenges ahead. The helicopter bounced slightly in the wind, and she gripped the seat, focusing on steadying herself. She knew that in a few minutes she would be facing situations where every second mattered. During the flight, Maya thought about how strange life could be. One day she was being told she no longer had a job. The next she was flying into an emergency where her expertise could save multiple lives. It reminded her that her work, her purpose, and her ability to help others were not defined by paperwork or employment contracts. She could make a difference anywhere at any time, and that thought gave her courage. The mountain was rugged and treacherous. As the helicopter approached, Maya could see the landslide below. Rocks and debris had blocked the path, and several hikers were stranded on narrow ledges. The paramedics on the ground had been unable to reach them safely, and now it was up to the helicopter team to coordinate the rescue. Maya's heart raced as they prepared the hoist system, ready to lower her down to the injured hikers. When she was finally lowered, the cold wind whipped against her face. The terrain was dangerous, unstable, and unforgiving, but Maya moved with purpose. She assessed the hikers, checking for injuries, calming their fears, and guiding them through safety procedures. One young man had a broken leg, and a woman was in shock, trembling uncontrollably. Maya stayed calm, giving clear instructions and using every ounce of her training to stabilize them until they could be hoisted safely into the helicopter. After all the hikers were secured, Maya was lifted back into the helicopter. She felt exhausted but exhilarated. They had saved the lives of several people who would not have survived without immediate intervention. The paramedics exchanged looks of respect, recognizing the skill and composure Maya had displayed under pressure. She allowed herself a brief moment of pride before realizing that the day was far from over. The second helicopter had already landed at the flood zone. Maya quickly boarded, ready to face another critical situation. The area was devastated, with streets submerged under water and families stranded on rooftops, waiting for rescue. The helicopter team coordinated with local emergency services, using loudspeakers to guide people to safety and dropping life-saving supplies. Maya moved with precision, directing the rescue, assisting children and the elderly, and ensuring that everyone received the care they needed. Hours passed like minutes as Maya worked tirelessly. She felt the strain in her muscles and the ache in her back, but she kept going, driven by the knowledge that every action mattered. She treated minor injuries, comforted terrified children, and reassured parents who feared for their families. Her calm voice, clear instructions, and steady hands became a source of comfort and security in the midst of chaos. By late afternoon, the helicopters had evacuated everyone to safety. Maya finally had a moment to sit and catch her breath. The people she had helped expressed their gratitude, tears of relief and joy streaming down their faces. Maya smiled, feeling the deep satisfaction that came from knowing she had made a difference. She realized that, despite losing her job the day before, she had found something far more important. The reminder that her skills, her heart, and her dedication were needed in the world, no matter where she was. As the helicopters lifted off, Maya looked down at the flooded streets and the rugged mountains. The world had thrown her into unexpected circumstances, but she had faced them with courage and competence. She understood that this experience would stay with her forever, a testament to her ability to rise to challenges, even when life seemed unfair. That evening, when she finally returned home, Maya sat quietly on her couch, exhausted but fulfilled. She reflected on the day's events, thinking about the people she had helped and the obstacles she had overcome. Losing her job had been painful, but it had led her to a moment where she could see the true value of her work and her dedication. She realized that purpose was not something that could be taken away by a letter or a sudden decision. It was something that lived within her, a constant force that guided her actions and gave meaning to her life. For the first time since being told she was no longer employed, Maya felt a sense of clarity. She knew that she could face any challenge, help anyone in need, and continue making a difference. Losing the hospital job had been a shock, but it had also opened a door to a larger world where her skills were truly needed. She made a promise to herself that she would continue to respond when people needed her, whether it was in hospitals, in disaster zones, or anywhere life demanded her courage and expertise. As night fell, Maya prepared for rest, feeling the weight of the day but also the lightness of renewed purpose. She understood that life could be unpredictable, throwing challenges her way when she least expected them. Yet she also knew that she had the strength, skill, and determination to rise above those challenges, to help, to save, and to lead. And with that understanding, Maya finally allowed herself to close her eyes and sleep, ready to face whatever the future might bring. The morning air was crisp and sharp as Maya arrived at the helicopter landing zone once again. She had spent the night thinking about the events of the previous day, the lives she had helped save, and the strange twist of fate that had led her here. Even after everything, she felt a mixture of exhaustion and anticipation. She knew that today could be even more challenging. The emergency she was about to face would test not only her skills as a nurse, but also her courage and quick thinking under pressure. The helicopters were already waiting, engines humming softly in the cool dawn. The paramedics and doctors were there too, a team of experienced professionals who had been briefed on the critical situations they were about to face. Maya felt a sense of reassurance seeing them. These were people who knew the stakes, who understood the danger, and who would work together with her to save lives. As she approached, one of the paramedics waved and called out, "Maya, we're ready when you are. Let's make this count." The first mission was to a remote mountainous area where a group of hikers had been caught in a sudden rock slide. The terrain was treacherous, the cliffs steep and unstable. Reports indicated that several hikers were injured, some severely, and that time was critical. Maya climbed into the helicopter, securing her seatbelt and listening carefully to the flight plan. She checked her medical kit, ensuring everything was in place: bandages, IV supplies, emergency medications. She ran through mental notes of past rescues, visualizing how she would approach the patients, how she would stay calm under extreme pressure. As the helicopter lifted off the ground, the rotor blades slicing through the cold morning air, Maya felt her heart pounding. The mountains came into view, their jagged peaks looming beneath them. The helicopter navigated through narrow valleys and over steep cliffs, descending carefully toward the landing area. Maya could see the aftermath of the rockslide below, boulders and debris scattered across the trail, hikers clinging to narrow ledges, panic written on their faces. Once they reached the landing zone, Maya and the team prepared for the descent. She was lowered from the helicopter on a hoist, the wind whipping around her and the ground rushing up to meet her. Her training kicked in automatically. She assessed the situation, identifying the most critically injured hikers first. One young man had a fractured leg and was struggling to stay upright. A woman, panicked and crying, had a head injury and was clearly disoriented. Another hiker, an older man, had minor cuts but was frightened and unsure of what to do. Maya moved quickly, her hands steady and precise. She reassured the hikers, explaining each step before she touched them so they knew what to expect. She stabilized the young man's leg with a splint, applied bandages to the woman's head wound, and comforted the older man, encouraging him to stay calm. The helicopter team coordinated with her, ready to hoist the injured hikers one by one to safety. Maya guided them carefully, giving instructions and providing medical support during the lifts. The wind gusted and threatened to knock the ropes off course, but she remained calm, her focus unshakable. After several tense minutes, all the hikers were safely lifted into the helicopter. Maya was exhausted, her arms sore from holding and stabilizing the patients, but she felt a surge of relief and accomplishment. The hikers were alive, and their gratitude was palpable. She smiled briefly, allowing herself a moment to breathe before the helicopter lifted off again. There was no time to rest. The second mission awaited. The flood zone was a stark contrast to the Rocky Mountains. Streets were submerged and houses were partially underwater. Families clung to rooftops, waiting for rescue, some holding small children in their arms. The helicopter hovered above, and Maya could see the panic and fear in the eyes of the stranded residents. She prepared herself, checking supplies and mentally reviewing her plan. Every decision mattered. Every action could mean the difference between life and death. As they approached the first group of people, Maya coordinated with the pilot and paramedics. They had a system for lowering ropes and life rafts, guiding people into safety, and providing immediate medical attention. Maya descended into the waterlogged streets with a rope harness, her heart racing as she waded through waist-deep water to reach the first family. A young mother clutched her toddler tightly, fear etched across her face. Maya spoke softly, reassuring her, explaining each step as she helped them onto the life raft. She checked for injuries, kept the mother calm, and guided them toward the helicopter. Time seemed to blur as Maya moved from one rooftop to another. She helped an elderly couple, stabilizing the husband who had fainted from stress, and encouraged a group of teenagers who were terrified by the rising water. She was constantly assessing, adjusting, and acting quickly. Her training, experience, and natural calmness allowed her to make decisions under pressure that others might have frozen in. She moved like a calm force in the chaos, her voice and presence a beacon of safety. Several hours passed as the rescue continued. Maya's clothes were soaked, her muscles ached, and her hands were raw from gripping ropes and handling supplies. But she never stopped. She checked each person, administered first aid, reassured frightened children, and coordinated with the helicopter team to ensure everyone was evacuated safely. Families hugged her, tears of relief streaming down their faces, thanking her again and again. Maya felt the satisfaction of knowing she had saved lives, even as she struggled to keep her own energy up. At one point, a sudden gust of wind caused the helicopter to sway dangerously. Maya held onto the rope tightly, steadying herself and the person she was assisting. She spoke calmly, giving precise instructions, and worked with the pilot to maintain stability. The rescue continued smoothly after the moment of tension, and she felt a quiet sense of pride in the teamwork and coordination that had made it possible. As the sun began to set, Maya and the team had evacuated every person from the flood zone. She finally had a moment to sit and rest, her body exhausted but her spirit invigorated. She watched as the last of the helicopters lifted off, carrying the rescued families to safety. The gratitude and relief in the eyes of the people she had helped filled her with a deep sense of fulfillment. She realized that even after the heartbreak of losing her hospital job, she had found a new purpose, a reminder that her skills, compassion, and courage were needed in the world, beyond any single workplace. The helicopter team looked at her with respect and admiration. Paramedics and doctors who had worked alongside her acknowledged her skill and leadership. "You were incredible," one of them said. "You stayed calm when everything was chaotic, and you saved lives that might not have survived without you." Maya smiled, tired but humbled. She had not done it for recognition. She had done it because she could not do otherwise. Helping people was part of who she was. On the flight back to the landing zone, Maya allowed herself a moment of reflection. She thought about the people she had helped, the challenges she had faced, and the strength she had found within herself. Losing her hospital job had been a shock, but it had led her to a moment where she could see the true value of her work and her dedication. She realized that her purpose was not tied to any one place or title. It lived within her, guiding her actions and giving meaning to her life. By the time Maya returned home, it was late evening. She was physically and emotionally drained, her body sore from hours of exertion, but her mind was alive with a sense of accomplishment. She made herself a warm drink, sat quietly, and allowed herself to process the day. She thought about the people she had saved, the families who would now have another chance at life, and the moments when calm decisions had made all the difference. She reflected on the strange twist of fate that had led her here. One day, she had been told she no longer had a job. The next, she had been called to save lives in situations more challenging than anything she had faced before. It was a reminder that life was unpredictable, and yet sometimes those very challenges revealed the true depth of one's abilities. Maya understood that her work, her skills, and her heart had value far beyond a single hospital or a single title. As she prepared for bed that night, Maya felt a sense of quiet fulfillment. She knew that the world would continue to present unexpected challenges, and she was ready to face them. She had discovered a strength within herself that went beyond training and experience, a courage and determination that allowed her to act when others might hesitate. Losing her job had been painful, but it had also opened a door to a larger world where her skills were needed and where her purpose could shine brightly. Maya fell asleep feeling proud of herself, exhausted but satisfied. She knew that the future was uncertain, but she was confident in her ability to rise to any challenge, to help those in need, and to make a difference. And deep inside, she felt a quiet anticipation for what tomorrow might bring, knowing that life had a way of rewarding those who followed their purpose, no matter how unexpected the path might be. The morning after the exhausting rescues, Maya woke to the soft light filtering through her curtains. Her body was sore, her muscles aching from the long hours spent climbing, stabilizing patients, and coordinating rescues, but her mind was alert and focused. She had spent the night replaying the events of the past 2 days, the mountain landslide, the flood rescue, the fear and gratitude in the eyes of those she had helped. It was overwhelming, yet in that overwhelm, she felt something she had not felt in a long time: purpose. Even though she had lost her job at the hospital, Maya realized that her work was far from over. She had seen firsthand that people needed her, sometimes in situations that no hospital could prepare for. She thought about the hikers, the children clinging to their parents' arms on rooftops, the elderly couple who had feared drowning. Each life she had touched was a reminder that her skills, experience, and calmness under pressure mattered. The thought filled her with a sense of pride and motivation. She dressed carefully, choosing comfortable clothes that would allow her to move freely. Her mind was still racing as she prepared for the day. She had received several messages overnight, texts, calls, and emails from people she didn't know personally, expressing gratitude for her actions during the rescues. Some were from the families she had saved, others from local authorities who had coordinated with her team. She read each message carefully, feeling the warmth and relief that her work had brought to so many. Maya decided to visit the landing zone again. She needed to meet the helicopter teams, to check in with the paramedics and doctors, and to understand the full scope of what had happened. When she arrived, the scene was calmer than the previous day, but still busy. People were organizing equipment, refueling helicopters, and discussing the next steps. Maya was greeted warmly, with smiles and handshakes, acknowledgement of her incredible efforts still evident in the faces of those who had worked alongside her. The team leader approached her, a tall man with a kind but firm demeanor. "Maya," he said, "we wanted to make sure you came by. What you did over the past 2 days was extraordinary. You acted with skill, courage, and calmness. You saved lives that might not have survived otherwise. We want to thank you properly." Maya felt a flush of modesty. She had never sought recognition for her work, only the satisfaction of knowing she had helped someone in need. Yet hearing the appreciation from professionals who understood the risks and challenges made her heart swell. She nodded, trying to find the right words. "I just did what needed to be done," she said softly. "I couldn't have done it without the team." The team leader smiled. "That's true, but your leadership made the difference. You guided us, kept us focused, and ensured that everyone was safe. You were the calm in the storm." As Maya spoke with the team, local news crews arrived. They had been informed about the dramatic rescues, and now reporters wanted to cover the story of the nurse who had stepped in when no one else could. Cameras, microphones, and questions surrounded her, and Maya felt a mixture of nerves and determination. She answered questions carefully, focusing on the efforts of the entire team and emphasizing the importance of safety, preparation, and quick response in emergencies. Despite her modesty, the coverage highlighted her courage and skill. News articles, social media posts, and local reports told the story of a nurse who, despite losing her hospital job, had risked her life to save others in critical situations. Families she had helped shared their gratitude, praising her calmness and expertise. Maya read the stories, feeling a mixture of awe and disbelief. She had never imagined that losing her job would lead to this level of recognition. After the media left, Maya was invited to a meeting with the local emergency management team. They wanted to discuss her future involvement in rescue operations, training programs, and disaster response planning. Maya listened carefully as they outlined opportunities for her to work on critical missions, train other medical personnel, and even develop protocols for remote or dangerous emergencies. Her heart raced with excitement. This was more than a job. This was a chance to make a real, lasting impact. Over the next few days, Maya began working with the team to plan training exercises and coordinate logistics for future rescues. She discovered that her years of experience in hospitals, combined with her calm demeanor under pressure, made her uniquely qualified for this work. She trained medics in field triage, taught emergency first aid in challenging environments, and shared strategies for handling stress and fear in life-or-death situations. The team valued her input, and Maya found herself immersed in a role that was both demanding and deeply rewarding. During this time, Maya reflected on her previous hospital experience. Losing her job had been painful, but it had also opened the door to opportunities she had never considered. She realized that purpose and fulfillment were not tied to a single workplace or title. Her dedication, compassion, and expertise were valuable anywhere, and now she could use them in a way that reached beyond the walls of a hospital. She felt a renewed sense of confidence and direction, understanding that life could take unexpected turns, but those turns could lead to meaningful, life-changing experiences. Maya also reconnected with some of her former patients and colleagues. Many had followed the news reports, reaching out to express their admiration and support. Letters, emails, and calls poured in, sharing stories of how her calm and caring presence had inspired them or helped them overcome difficult moments. Maya was deeply moved by these messages. They reminded her that even small actions, done with dedication and compassion, could have a profound impact on the lives of others. As weeks passed, Maya became a central figure in the emergency response team. Her skills were in constant demand, from training new medics to participating in rescues during natural disasters. Each mission presented new challenges, and each success reinforced her confidence and sense of purpose. She developed close bonds with the team, forming friendships built on trust, respect, and shared experiences in high-pressure situations. Together, they faced storms, floods, and accidents, always relying on one another to make split-second decisions that saved lives. Maya also noticed a change in herself. She had always been confident in her skills, but now she understood the depth of her resilience and adaptability. She could remain calm in chaos, make critical decisions under pressure, and inspire others to do the same. She realized that these qualities were not just professional skills, they were part of her character, something that would guide her in every aspect of life. She felt a sense of empowerment she had never experienced before. One day, while reviewing plans for a remote medical outreach, Maya received a call from a former supervisor at her previous hospital. They admitted that letting her go had been a mistake and expressed admiration for her recent work. Maya listened politely, but she felt no bitterness. She understood that her journey had taken her to a far more meaningful place than the hospital could offer. Her experiences had taught her that setbacks could be transformative, that loss could lead to opportunity, and that perseverance and dedication always found their reward in unexpected ways. Maya continued to grow in her new role. She traveled to remote areas, coordinated emergency responses, and trained countless individuals in critical medical skills. Her work was challenging, often exhausting, and sometimes dangerous, but it was deeply fulfilling. She found joy in knowing that her actions directly saved lives, alleviated suffering, and brought hope to people in desperate situations. Every patient she helped, every life she touched, reinforced her belief in the power of compassion, skill, and courage. Over time, Maya's story spread beyond the local community. She was invited to speak at conferences, share her experiences with other medical professionals, and contribute to publications on emergency response and disaster preparedness. Her reputation as a skilled, courageous, and compassionate nurse grew, and she realized that her impact extended far beyond what she had imagined. She had transformed what seemed like a personal setback into a life-changing opportunity to make a difference on a much larger scale. Through it all, Maya never forgot the moment she lost her hospital job. That memory, though painful, served as a reminder of how quickly life could change and how important it was to remain adaptable and resilient. She had discovered that true fulfillment came not from a title or a paycheck, but from the ability to use one's talents to help others, to act with courage, and to face challenges head-on. Losing her job had been the catalyst that led her to a new, more meaningful path, one that she embraced wholeheartedly. By the time the sun set each day, Maya often found herself reflecting quietly on the journey she had undertaken. She thought about the lives she had saved, the people she had comforted, and the lessons she had learned. She realized that purpose was not something given by others. It was something she carried within herself, something that guided her choices, her actions, and her vision for the future. And with that understanding, she felt a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. Maya knew that challenges would continue to arise, but she was no longer afraid. She had proven to herself that she could face chaos, danger, and uncertainty with courage, skill, and compassion. She had discovered a strength within herself that could not be taken away by circumstance or decision. And she knew, beyond any doubt, that her work, her dedication to helping others, was her true calling. Her life had taken an unexpected turn, from the heartbreak of losing a job to the exhilaration of saving lives in critical emergencies. Maya had learned that sometimes, the doors that close in life lead to paths far greater than what we could have imagined. She had turned a moment of personal loss into a journey of purpose, fulfillment, and impact that would continue to grow. And in that journey, she found not only success, but also a profound sense of meaning that would guide her for the rest of her life.